Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Windenburg, and welcome to Old George Street. Now, Old George Street is in the world of Windenburg, quite obviously, considering the name of this title, Aidan. And it is opposite the Old Dock wine bar that I built in my last episode of Rebuilding Windenburg. Now, the Old George Street is a retail street with a bakery. It has also got an old English pub. It has got a skincare place that I changed from being a florist. I got inspiration from my Fern Beach Sanctuary build that I did, which is cool. I love how that happens. You kind of sort of get an organic feel and your imagination, blah, 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 blah. You know where I'm going with that. What else has it got? It's got a furniture shop, and it's also got another bar. So it's got another cheeky little bar right on the corner. And in my head, I wanted a kind of hub, of a community hub where your Sims could come and either shop or drink or eat, all on one lot. And with this build itself, I actually made it a park because it just fit being a park the most, because a lot of people would come from all around the areas to actually come to this lot. But in my head, if you did want to make it a retail lot, you could just literally change into a retail lot in the settings, or vice versa for a bar, etc., etc. At the back of this build is a shipping container food court. So you see these in places around in the UK where they're kind of stacked, sort of converted shipping containers that either house shops or pop-up shops or food courts, and they're done in kind of a modern sort of contemporary way. And that is exactly what is around the back. I actually do like a stacked kind of shipping container area sunk down into the basement level with a children's like swing set and lots of the kind of, you know, the stalls with the vendors that you can get in, so you can have like Japanese food, etc., etc. And it just really, really works. It really works. And I say this in so many of my builds, but I really did have so much fun building this, because this is what I kind of see on my day-to-day life. These kind of little tiny sort of villagey shops everywhere. And I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it, but I do. When you're around something so much, you know the ins and outs of everything and how they work. And that is what this lot represents to me. At a couple of these shops, there are little tiny studio flats. And in my head, two of the Sims will be living in here. One being called Casey. She is the skincare specialist. Her little cheeky house, which is the one that I'm building now, actually has a little roof garden area as well, where she grows her own skincare ingredients like herbs and flowers, etc., etc. And it just worked out really, really lovely that way. The roof garden itself actually sits on top of an old railway bridge. That is what in my head it was. That got destroyed in the war, and they were just left with this tiny little piece that they had right at the end. Again, imagination taking hold. And Liana is the baker, and she lives. The baker is the one with, or the bakery, sorry, is the house that I was building first off with the red window. But she actually lives above the tiny little pub, which is that black and white one in the middle there. But that actually changes. The windows and stuff actually changes, because in the beginning I was going to make that pub something completely different. But I really enjoyed building this lot. I really did, and it has it snuggles into the landscape quite nicely. Not perfectly, because of the amount of kind of Tudor houses and stuff around it. These houses in my head would be more along the lines of being Victorian, or maybe a little bit earlier, going back into the 1700s. But yeah, I don't know. I had fun. I had a whole lot of fun building this lot. In my head, Liana and Casey are best friends as well. So they often, after work, go into the bar at the end of the street and just get completely off their tits on wine, and then wake up with hangovers, and then go and get each other breakfast. And I just again, imagination taking hold, and that's the best way to build. The best way to build, my friends. I've got a little bit of crap news. I said in my last build that I got invited to EA Play. I actually had to pull out of going to EA Play this time, which is such a shame. It's such a shame, but I had a plan that my friend is getting married, and I really thought I was going to be back in time to be able to help her sort out stuff in the morning, which I offered to do a couple years ago. But with jet lag and stuff like going on, I couldn't. So I had to pull out, and I had to explain to EA and stuff, and they were really lovely about it. And I'm so sad. I'm so sad that I can't go this time, but I hope next time that I'll be able to go. So I had to say that in this video because I know how excited some of you guys were for me about going over to LA. But yeah, bit crap. I'm completely gutted about it. I really am. But I hope next time that I'll be able to go. And thank you to all you guys that wished me congrats and whatnot. I really appreciate it. I really do. Anyway, the skincare shop is the one with the white brick. You can see with the little like blue kind of awnings on it, and that roof garden is on top of that old railway bridge, which kind of sits in the middle there. Now this house here in my head, the brown brick one that we're building now, may have been built in like the 60s and 70s. The end of this street was completely bombed in World War II. You see that a lot around in England, and not just England, like the UK, of where buildings have been kind of blown apart by bombs in World War II and then kind of rebuilt to kind of connect the street back in together with more modern buildings. And in my head, this is what happened here. The railway bridge was kind of blitzed with all of the, and people just decided to build houses on it instead. And this end house that I'm doing now is actually a kind of a modern wine bar. It's made out of black brick and stuff. You'll see that in just a sec. You'll see it in just a sec. But I say this a lot, but I had a lot of bloody fun building this. I really did. I love building things where it just makes me think, now this can go here, that can go there. Trying to fit in as much detail into the smallest amount of space is always a little bit of a challenge for me, but I do really, really like a challenge. And this build certainly pulled it that way for the challenging variety. Don't know where I was going with that, and I completely made that word up and it doesn't even fit into the sentence, but we're going to go along with it, ignore it, and move on. Now, the back bit of this build is where I get a real community vibe from it, especially, and in fact, the front as well. The front as well, because so many Sims kind of congregate around the area through the front. I love the fact that they all kind of talk outside of these shops and stuff. It's really realistic. It's got like an almost community vibe to it. I think I said this. This is my second time trying to record the voiceover, so I could be repeating myself. But I made this lot a park. Main reasons being it draws the most amount of people in it. But my advice to you is probably to make this lot retail and do a little trick where you buy a sim an empty plot, get them to buy a retail space, and then just have living quarters on that retail space, so your Sims can go and live in those areas above their shops and stuff, and they've got like an empty plot somewhere. But a park kind of fit in with it a little bit better because, yeah, as I said, people were just drawn to the area a lot more, and it was easy enough to hire sort of food store vendors and stuff into this area that I'm doing now. It just made sense. It made sense, and again, I had loads of bloody fun. Loads of fun. And I really enjoyed the way that these stairs kind of come down from the arches there, down into this level. There is another access point on the other side at ground level, so your Sims don't have to go through that way. But the majority of the Sims that I was seeing were actually using the railway bridge as an entry into this little food court area. And it came across very nicely. In the beginning, I wanted bright colours, like really quite garish. I even went up a level here and I was like, no, I don't like the fact that it's too tall there. So I kept it all kind of one level on the ground level, and then we went downstairs, and that's where I put in all the food stalls and stuff. Now, shipping container kind of stacked food court areas or pop-up shops are quite they're quite a thing in the UK. I see them quite a lot in my hometown, in London, and other cities. It's where they just convert these shipping containers into these contemporary sort of tiny shops or restaurants, and I just love it. And I really wanted to implement it into this build itself. I coloured the boxes or the shipping containers quite brightly, first of all, into like reds and greens, but it was just so garish. And I kind of peered over at the old Dock wine bar that I did last time, and it was just this black, and I was just like, it would be better off if I did build it in black. And in my head, the architect who actually did this area here also did the old Dock wine bar as well. So I definitely need to bring this architect into a residential lot somewhere in the world. Maybe on the island in Windenburg, he's got a really gorgeous little beach house or something, because he has been rife. He's been rife around. I might even bring my sim self in and just pretend that the architect... Oh, did I name the architect last time, though? I think I might have named the architect. Oh, damn. I could have brought my sim self in and just pretended that I was this major architect lord in this series. One can only dream. but cool. This little area that I'm just about to do now is a tiny little children's area that just houses a swing set, and I really wanted this to have a very family friendly feel to this lot, so I needed to get something in for the children, and I was unsure of what to do for it, and I was like, we need some murals on here. And then I remembered the Seasons graffiti, and that's what I was putting all around, like, oh, lovely, and I was just like, oh, it doesn't really work. And then I found these, and these were from Seasons as well, I think, or Get Famous. I think they're from Get Famous. I think both of them are from Get Famous, sorry. And I just loved it. Those kind of murals, like, kind of, I don't know, they pay a nice nod towards community and the earth, and sort of, yeah, I thought that would be perfect there, and they really worked. Now, this little area here in my head was just a really nice little seating area where your Sims could grab some noodles from the Japanese bar downstairs and just come up, sit above the food stores themselves and just peer around at what's going on around them and do a good bit of people watching, because there is nothing I like more than people watching. I absolutely love people watching. Is anybody else out there like it? Me and my friends, we used to have this thing that we used to love to do, where we would be sat at a cafe or a bar, and we'd notice a table, say like a few tables away so they couldn't hear us, and we would narrate what they were doing. A lot of my friends are very good kind of actors. So we would do narrations of what they were saying to each other. And some of the times we would be absolutely pissing our pants, like through some of the stuff that we were saying. And is anybody else like that? Is anybody else just as weird as me and my friends? Because I just get enjoyment out of it. I do. Anyway, this is the bakery. So this is Liana's bakery here. It's just very cute, contemporary, with a little nod to the period house that it once was, with the bricks and the timber and the wooden floors, etc., etc. Now, in this build itself, I actually changed a little bit off of camera, and that is because the shelving unit that I put in the mirror to kind of hold cakes and stuff on them, it looked a little bit weird. So I actually ended up putting a fridge, like the exact same one that I've used in here, that little kind of cake display fridge. And I put that in the window as well, and it just looks a whole lot better. And I thought I was being clever here with the debug items and pulling out everything and being like, oh, lovely. And they were disappearing, and I was like, maybe they'll come in live mode. No, they did not. They did not come in live mode at all. So I actually had to get my sim to do a serious amount of baking. So when you do download this lot, I'm sure there will be a whole array of baked goods for your sim to be able to sell, which is cool, which is very cool. And this is a little cheeky seating area upstairs. Again, not so much contemporary up into this area. I wanted to keep this area a little bit more traditional. So kind of very sort of traditional seats with kind of boxed in fireplace and candles and stuff. And yeah, and again, paying respects to the periods before. So I used a lot of the old photos and a lot of the old paintings on what would have been here before this was a bakery or whatnot. I see that a lot in a lot of the places that I see where I live. But yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. Now this here is a tiny cheeky little old English pub. I'm not sure what to name this. Maybe the Old George Inn. There we go. Or the George Inn. We're going to call it that, assuming as this is George Street. In the beginning, I did put a fireplace there, but it was just taking up way too much room. This is tiny little space that I had to work with here. And I really had to make sure that everything was being used just right. And everything, people could move in here quite easily. And they can, and with great ease as well, which is really cool. And I love the cozy little vibe that this tiny little pub gives off. It's really nice. I would imagine this would look absolutely gorgeous in the wintertime when it's snowing. But yeah, and you can see that I'm sizing down that huge drinks cabinet from Get Together. Not realizing that it's mirrored in the back. It had those funny blue squares, but what I did was just push that into the wall, and it kind of hid them quite easily. So yeah, not too bad. And this is above it. So this is where Lyanna lives. So this is a tiny little studio flat that I had to squeeze everything in here. Now, it hasn't got a cooker. It's got a microwave. In my head, she would eat out a lot anyway, so it didn't really matter too much. But it has got absolutely everything that your sim would need to be able to move quite comfortably, including a full-size bathroom as well. So it's very cozy, very sweet, but yeah, it's very tiny living, but you get that a lot with the kind of living and residential lots that you see in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else. You'll have to let me know. I know it's a big thing in Holland. I know in the Netherlands, a lot of people live above their shops and stuff in those really lovely tall houses. But yeah, you'll have to let me know. Look at this. This is the skincare shop. So this is Macy's. Is it Macy? Casey? Macy? I can't remember her name. This is her tiny little skincare shop that I really wanted to give a very calming aura. That's the wrong word to use. But a very calming feeling that you would get from this place. So using lots of soft white colours and pastels. And yeah, it works. And she's just selling all of her cheeky soaps that she hand makes using all of her lovely ingredients that she makes herself. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed building this lot. I really did. And in my head as well, she also sells candles too. So she makes some candles out of 100% organic beeswax using essential oils. You get where I'm going with this. And I just had fun. Again, it's making it's making your builds have personality. That's all it boils down to sometimes. And by doing that, by making your sims first and giving them stories, you can then give your builds themselves stories. And that's what helps build, in my eyes. It would probably be difficult if I ever thought about even going into architecture. I'm not, by the way. I can't even think of anything worse than going to university for 5 years, considering I already did it for 3. But it'd be quite hard to kind of get whoever you're building a house for, their full story, to be able to make the house for them, like sort of really distinctively, if you get what I'm meaning. Probably not. So we're going to move on because I am babbling complete and utter shit as per bloody usual, and we've completely just missed over the fact that we've just built this other studio flat above the skincare shop, which is just really cute. Again, keeping it the same aesthetics as downstairs, so very light and airy. And this is her cheeky little roof garden that sits on top of the old railway bridge. And my favorite thing about this is the fact that the chimney from the house next door, so the furniture shop, actually sits into the garden itself. So it actually comes into the garden. I loved that. In the beginning, I was like, oh. And then I was like, no, do you know what? I like that. I'm going to keep it. So I did. But yeah. And I didn't actually put anything to grow this time in these pots. I just used flowers and stuff. So you guys can put whatever you want in these pots themselves, depending on obviously what seasons it is and stuff. And yeah, really cute. And much enjoyed with this area. Now I will go into a video tour at the end as per usual and show you the ins and outs of everything all on the insides and stuff. But this is one of those builds where I actually did show you me furnishing the whole bloody thing. So go me. And that usually comes when I've done done not an absolute gigantic massive build, which this one here isn't. It's a bigger build with it's a smaller build but with lots and lots of detail, which is probably my favorite way to build, more likely. And this is the furniture shop. So this furniture shop is very everything in here is handmade by the sim. I actually do a little work area in the backyard to this build. And every single bit of furniture in here is completely handmade. It's not really, you just go into the build mode, but in my head that was what it was. And I actually handpicked every single piece of furniture in here as well, just to fit it with the aesthetic of this lot. And I don't know, just enjoyed it. I bloody enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, I've put stools up, I need to get a couple of stools in. So I get a couple of stools in. There we go. And this bit area here is a cheeky little workbench area with just wood everywhere, so your sim, whoever lives here, can easily build. And yeah, much enjoyed. I'm failing so much with this voiceover, and I say that in every single video that I do because that's how I usually feel about my voiceovers, but you guys always seem to enjoy it, so I thank you and I apologize. And this is the cheeky little modern bar. The modern bar at the end of the street where everyone would come after a hard day's work for a few glasses of wine. Failing that, they can just pop over the courtyard area in the middle and go to the old dock if they wanted to get a bit more fancy or get a bit more drunk and see the nights away. I don't know. That's where we're going with it. That is exactly where we're going with it. I actually sized down these for the first time as well, the spa day lights, and they really fit in with the aesthetic of this bar. I never used to use those lights a lot because they were so bloody big. But I really did enjoy them, and I loved the fact that we were able to use them in this build itself. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to stop babbling, and I will see you all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.
Slow.
Dancing.